I am Nisar Ahmed and welcome to my YouTube-based e-learning platform. In this video, I will give an insight about rock physics rules of thumb, a relationship between seismic parameters and fluid properties and environment. I mean how seismic properties are affected by reservoir fluids, their types and saturation levels, etc. When seismic waves physically travel through the rocks, or how seismic properties are affected by the environment like frequency, temperature and pressure, similarly deposition environment of the rocks. When seismic waves physically travel through, say, a reservoir rock, the velocity of seismic waves will be affected by several reservoir fluid properties like saturation level, pore fluid types, either it is gas, brine, or oil, saturation pattern, either it is homogeneous or patchy, fluids viscosity, gas oil ratio, etc. Similarly, seismic properties are also affected by frequency, temperature, and pressure changes, stress history, etc. So, rock physics rules of thumb mean what possible impact each fluid or environmental property will have on seismic wave velocities, or how seismic waves will affect by each parameter if the impact of all other properties will consider negligible. So here we go. Factors influencing the seismic properties of sedimentary rock has been classified into three categories. These are rock properties, fluid properties, environment. In the last video of this playlist, rock physics a tool for seismic reservoir characterization. I have already discussed about the relationship between seismic and rock properties like porosity, clay content, texture, pore shape, consolidation, cementation, etc. This time, I will talk in the first part about the relationship between seismic and fluid properties. And in the second part, I will discuss about relationship between seismic properties and environment. This is first part, and the list of fluid properties that affect the seismic properties has been shown here. These rock properties about I'm going to talk today are viscosity, density, wettability, fluid type, composition, phase, then GOR, gas oil ratio, gas water ratio, fluid saturation, saturation pattern, homogeneous and patchy, etc. I will discuss each of them with practical examples of a reservoir rock case. This is really important point that needs to keep in memory before starting this discussion. Each factor will be assessed independently here, assuming others are constant. But in reality, many of these factors interact and have simultaneous effects on seismic and elastic properties. So I will start from this slide, rock physics rules of thumb, relationship between seismic and fluid properties. In this slide, I will discuss uh, the effect of fluids viscosity, density, and fluids type and composition, like it is gas, oil, or brine, on seismic and elastic properties. The first property is viscosity. Rocks with more viscous oil tend to have higher seismic properties, and sometimes extremely high viscous oil may act as a semi-solid in the rock. See the figure, this one. More viscous oil like heavy oil have lower API, just like given in the figure. API is equal to 6 for heavy oil, while the light oil have higher API. So in the figure, seismic velocities, P wave velocity for two oils, one has very small API, just like 6, while the other has higher API, just equivalent to 47, have been plotted as a function of oil saturation in a sandstone reservoir. We can see seismic velocities in case of more viscous oil is higher as compared to light oil. So it means, and the rules of thumb for viscosity is that more viscous oil have high seismic velocities, especially P wave velocity, as compared to lighter oils. The next parameter is density. High density oils have higher bulk moduli, and of course low compressibility. Resultantly, compressional wave velocity will be higher because compressional wave velocity is directly linked with the elastic moduli, just like bulk modulus. See another figure in which the densities of oils discussed in previous figure. Here, these figures have been plotted, and we can see more viscous oil have higher density as and has higher velocity, and vice versa. Remember, in this figure, the effective density is plotted, not the fluid density. Effective density means the density of rock fluid composite unit. No, now the question is why the density of viscous oil is higher. It is because more viscous oil has higher bulk moduli. See these figures. Mm, the bulk modulus of fluid and bulk modulus of saturated rock has been plotted for these two oils. One is heavy oil, and that is more viscous and more denser, while other is the light oil, and again it is less viscous and less denser. And we can see the the bulk modulus of more viscous fluid is higher as compared to the bulk modulus of less viscous fluid. And similarly, the bulk modulus of saturated rock, when it is saturated with more viscous oil, is higher as compared to the bulk modulus of rock, which is saturated with the light oil or low viscous oil. In the next figure here, see the P wave velocity for both oils discussed above in the above figures. One is the light oil mean has lower density, while other is the denser oil has been plotted. The P wave velocity in less dense oil is lower as compared to the P wave velocity in higher denser oil. Again, the reason is P wave velocity is directly linked with the bulk modulus of fluid and bulk modulus of the rocks. That's why the P wave velocity will be higher in case when there is more viscous oil or more denser oil, or the oil that have high bulk modulus. See the two equations. Here the P wave velocity is directly linked with the bulk modulus of fluid, and here in this case the P wave velocity is directly linked with the bulk modulus of fluid saturated rock. In the next figure here, S wave velocity is plotted for both these oils. The S wave behavior for the same oils, one is denser and while one is lighter, is entirely different, and we can observe a reverse trend in case of S wave velocity. Here in P wave velocity, the P wave velocity is higher in case of more denser oil, while S wave velocity is lower in case of more denser oil. The reason is interesting. It is because S wave velocity depends on shear modulus that does not change with change of pore fluid type and saturation, while density in the denominator is changing and decreasing when oil is replacing water, and resultantly S wave is increasing. Mathematically, the response will be shown here in this figure, and we can see the mathematical equation as well. Here, the Vs velocity is dependent on shear modulus that remains constant in case of if we are changing fluid type or fluid saturation. Resultantly, Vs is dependent here on density. When density is decreasing, it means Vs is Vs is increasing, and if density is increasing, it means Vs is decreasing. And that's why the behavior of shear wave velocity is entirely different in when there is change in fluid in a reservoir rock. So let's have a look on other figures. Another figure here in which the fluid density and the bulk density of saturated rock and the fluid density of the fluids like gas and oil has been plotted here. This trend is for oil case, and this trend is for gas. Uh, how when oil and gas is being replaced with the water, or when water is being replaced with oil and gas, we can see the density in case of oil is higher as compared to the density in case of gas. But when the same gas and oil has been put into the rock pores, we can see again the density here in case of when a rock is fully saturated with gas, and here the density when the same rock is fully saturated with oil. So the density in case of gas is less as compared to the density in case of oil. The third point here is the fluid type and composition. Heavier oils contain high carbon numbers, carbon number hydrocarbons, so that their bulk moduli are higher. Similarly, oils has high bulk modulus than gas. So as we can see here in the figures, here the bulk modulus of oil is plotted, and here the bulk modulus of gas is plotted. I mean, the water is changing with gas, or gas is replacing with water. Here, the oil is replacing with water, or water has been replaced with oil. We can see here the bulk modulus in case of gas is near zero. Just maybe, I think if I'm talking about numerical values, maybe it will be equal to 0.05 or 0.06 here gigapascal. Here, the bulk modulus of oil lies in between 0.5 and 1.5. It means it is maybe around 1. So the bulk modulus of oil is higher as compared to bulk modulus of gas. So when we are talking about fluid type, resultantly the P wave velocity of oil case will be a bit higher as compared to gas. Here we can see here in this figure, when the same oil and gas has been placed within the pore of a reservoir rock, and when we computed this response, here we can see this response is for gas, and this response is the green line is for oil, and here we can't see clearly, but if I zoom it, we can see uh, the seismic velocities of oil case is bit higher as compared to uh, to 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 gas case. The sensitivity of P wave velocity to oil and gas depends many other factors. Like if it is a hard rock, then it will be a little bit difficult to differentiate between pore fluids, and if it is a soft rock and it has high porosity and permeability, then it will be a bit easier to differentiate between P wave velocity for gas and for oil. It was all about P wave velocity, and we have already discussed about the shear properties, and shear wave properties are less affected because it is believed that the fluids don't have shear moduli. But numerically, we know the shear wave velocity also changes when the fluid or saturation or pore fluid type in a reservoir rock is changing, because shear wave velocity does not only depends on shear modulus, but also it depends on density. So in the end, I will say, please don't confuse with the GW or GH here. GW means Gasman-Wood model, and GH means Gasman-Hill model, and Gasman-Wood model is used when we consider that the fluid is homogeneously distributed within a reservoir rock. There is a uniform distribution of pore fluid, and GH Gasman-Hill model is used when the reservoir fluid is in the form of patches. A patch of one fluid is surrounded, say gas. A patch of gas is surrounded with another fluid, say maybe oil or liquid, or maybe water. So that's why these are two different models, and in case of patchy saturation, we need to compute the moduli within the patch of a fluid. If we compare these two models, we can see when there is a partial saturation, I mean there are two fluids. In case of Gasman-Hill, the numerical values are a bit higher as compared to when we are talking about Gassman-Wood model. These models will come in more detail when I will talk about Gassman fluid substitution model. So that's why I'm not too much talking about these models at this stage of presentation. See the last figure here. The bulk moduli of different fluids and has been plotted against the density of different fluids, and we can see the brine has high bulk moduli and high density oil, and then oil, and then at the end there will be a gas. So the fluid that have high density or high bulk modulus have low API or low gas oil ratio. Similarly, the fluids that have low API or low GOR gas to oil ratio have less bulk density and less density and bulk modulus as compared to brine. So the first point is saturation here. The rule is very simple. I will explain, and you guys can read it. What I have written here. The rule is very simple. If lower bulk moduli is like fluids, if the lower bulk modulus fluid or lower bulk moduli fluids replaces higher modulus fluids, the P wave velocity and density will decrease, and resultantly acoustic impedance will also decrease, because acoustic impedance is the product of density and velocity. See the figures here. We can see as the gas and oil, this is a gas case, say this is the oil case. As gas and oil are replacing water from 1 to 0 saturation, we can see the seismic velocities decreases. And in the previous slide, we have already seen the density is also decreasing. When density and velocity are decreasing, ultimately the acoustic impedance is also decreases. Here we can see, because acoustic impedance is the product of density and velocity. So the saturation for saturation rule is very simple. Higher bulk moduli means high velocities and high density, and low bulk moduli means low velocity and low density. When it comes to the case of VS, we have already discussed. However, the response is entirely different in reverse to VP. We can see here in case of VP, when water is being replaced with hydrocarbons, it is decreasing. But here, when water is being replaced with hydrocarbons, it is increases for S wave velocity. The reason is shear modulus in the numerator remains constant, while in the denominator density is changing, and resultantly in case of hydrocarbon, the density is dropping, and resultantly VS is also increasing. So now see another figure that is about VP or velocity ratio. So when we have in our previous discussion, when we see when velocity Vs increasing in the denominator in case of gas, while Vp is will drop, while Vs is increasing here, and Vs is increasing here, and Vp is dropping here. Resultantly, Vp or Vs ratio will drop in case of both gas and oil. We can see here again the GW and GH means Gassman-Wood and Gassman-Hill model. The magnitude of saturation effect is higher in rock with weak frame or with flat pore or crack surfactors. It means the rock that have more fractures, cracks, or the rock that have high that is more porous and permeable. The magnitude of saturation effect on these properties like elastic and seismic properties will be higher. The next point is the next factor is fluid phase, and I think I have already added a lot of discussion about fluid saturation, fluid type, and their composition. So fluid phase, the rock saturated with fluids in their gaseous phase, hydrocarbon, gas, steam, CO2, have lower compressional seismic properties and and shear modulus, but slightly higher shear velocities. I have already talked about the reason is it has high bulk moduli. So you guys can read what is written here, but I think I have already added a lot of discussion about these points. Seismic properties hardly depend on amount of gas when the gas saturation is between 5 and 100%. Here, this slide is about GOR or GWR, gas oil ratio, GOR, or gas water ratio. The large amount of gas dissolved in the oil reduces the bulk modulus. As a result, VP decreases. We know the P wave velocity is directly linked with the bulk modulus of fluid and saturated rock modulus as well as. That's why VP decreases. See the figure here. Higher API means lighter oil here, and lower API means heavier oil. So lighter oil means have high gas oil ratio, more gas is dissolved into the oil, and heavier oil, low API means less GOR, less gas is dissolved in the oil. So when these different types of oil has been placed into the rocks and ultimately we computed the seismic response, we can see the P wave velocity in case of P wave velocity in case of higher API, or in case of lighter oil, or in case of oil that has high GOR is lower as compared to the oil that has low GOR or low API. In case of water, a very little gas can be dissolved in water anyway. So the response in case of water is not too much because a very small amount of gas is dissolved in the water. But in case of oil, it matters a bit more. So this part, the first part is completed. The first part was about how seismic properties are affected by the fluid type, their saturation levels, and distribution pattern within the pores. And we can see if there is a patchy saturation like Gassman Hill model we talked about, the response is higher, and in case of Gassman Wood model, when it is homogeneously distributed, the seismic velocities decreases. So this is the second part of this presentation. Here, the relationship between seismic properties and environment have been discussed. The factors that are in list under the title environment are frequency, stress history, temperature, and net reservoir pressure, production history, etc. So the first point here is the frequency. Seismic velocities are also depending on frequency, and increase in velocity as a function of frequency is called velocity dispersion. We can see here in the figure that P wave velocity at various gas saturation levels have been plotted as a function of frequency. The increase in velocity can easily be visualized. It means velocity is also dependent on frequency, and increase in seismic velocity as a function of frequency is known as velocity dispersion. Remember, there are many mechanisms of velocity dispersion or seismic energy attenuation when seismic waves passes through the rocks. These mechanisms are friction, these are the fluid movement, and then thin layers scattering, etc. Here in this figure, the velocity dispersion shown is due to wave-induced fluid flow, or VIFF, or we can also say it is due to the fluid movement. See another figure in which the both P and S wave velocities are plotted as a function of frequency and dispersion. Dispersion means increase in velocities as a function of frequency in both type of waves can be observed. However, the magnitude of dispersion is higher in case of P wave velocity as compared to S wave velocity. The next is here. This figure has been taken from Mavko's book, and the mechanism or dispersion model he used to compute these responses is entirely different. The model that has been used here for this response to compute this response. The next factor is temperature. P-wave velocity is the P-wave velocity is inversely linked with temperature. We can see here in the figure at higher temperatures, just like here, when the temperature is 131 Celsius, the seismic velocity is lower as compared to when the temperature is just 78. So it means the temperature is inversely proportional to P-wave velocity. The reason is that the viscosity of oil and interfacial force decrease due to rise in temperature, which decrease the rigidity and bulk modulus, leading to reduction in seismic velocities. For temperature up to 150 Celsius, and the changes in pore fluid properties play a dominant role in changing the velocity. The next one is the overburden pressure. Higher pressure means higher seismic velocities. In general, seismic velocities increases with pressure. The figure also displays the same. Sorry, the figure also displays the same narrative. We can see we have computed P-wave velocity response at different pressure. When it is 30, the P-wave velocity is higher as compared to when it is 20 megapascal. The next point is stress history, I think. Yeah. In general, stress is directly linked with the seismic velocities. See the figure here. Mm, figure on the right side is interpolated seismic velocities picked at different CDP points on a vertical seismic section, while the figure on left hand side is the vertical stress computed from these velocity slice, from this velocity slice. Both figures are mirror image to each other. I mean the area where we have a high stress, just like here, the P-wave velocity is also higher. Similarly, other seismic parameters like impedance, etc., will follow the same trend. However, knowing stress history of a rock is very important and helps to interpret the data. Hard rocks are another important point that we should be aware of. That hard rocks are usually brittle. If a rock was under great stress, the relief of stress generate micro cracks in the rock, which reduces the seismic velocities. So sometime high stress or increase in stress may responsible to decrease the seismic velocities, but it will be due to fracturing or micro cracking. The next factor is reservoir process. This factor, mm, yeah, this factor is linked with 4D seismic monitoring. And it is hard to define the rule of thumb for reservoir process during production or time-lapse studies. The reason is that the effect of reservoir process on seismic properties is a combination of several factors. For example, I will give some examples. If we are taking production from an oil-bearing reservoir, it means water is replacing the oil in the reservoir rock, and as a result, seismic wave velocity, especially P wave velocity, should increase because water is replacing and water saturation is increasing, and water bearing rocks have higher velocities as compared to hydrocarbons. This is the one angle to talk about it, about the reservoir process. See another angle. As we know, at higher pressure, the gases are dissolved in oil and even in water. With production of oil, as pressure releases, the dissolved gas uh, come out from the liquid oil, from the liquid form, and seismic velocities decrease because gases in the saturation level in a reservoir rock, saturation level of gases in a reservoir rock is increasing. So it means P wave velocity should decrease. In a first point, we see water is replacing oil. So it means P wave velocity should increase. But here we see the dissolved gases are coming out from the oil. So it means P wave velocity should decrease. Similarly, another angle to talk about reservoir process is, suppose we are injecting water into a producing field just to enhance recovery. So water injection means saturation of water is increasing. So again, the velocity should increase. But on the other hand, water injection means pore pressure will also increase. And we know P wave velocity has inverse relation with pore pressure. Similarly, water injection also changes the reservoir temperature, and P wave velocity is inversely proportional to temperature. We have already seen it. I will again say it is hard to define a rule of thumb for reservoir process during production or time-lapse studies, because effect of reservoir process on seismic properties is a combination of several factors. The next points in the part 2, these are the effect of production history. Production history is like the reservoir process on seismic properties, and in the previous slide I have discussed it in very detail. The next point is net reservoir pressure. Net reservoir pressure is the difference pressure between overburden and reservoir pressure, because overburden pressure does not change or changes very little in a reservoir. The effect of net pressure is just the opposite of the effect of reservoir pressure on seismic properties. Seismic properties in all rocks increase as net pressure increases. The magnitude of such an increase depends on several other factors like pore shape, porosity, pore fluids, lithology, etc. However, it can only be quantified through measurements. The next point is the next factor, is deposition environment. Deposition environment, the effect of deposition environment on seismic velocities is hard to quantify. However, we know the different rocks are deposited in different environments. So, and they have different response to the seismic properties. It means deposition environment has an impact on seismic wave velocities, but yeah, it is hard to quantify or to define any rule of thumb for the deposition environment. So the next factor is wettability. Wettability can be defined as the ability of a liquid to maintain contact with a solid surface. A rock fully saturated with non-wetting fluid has slightly higher seismic properties as compared to the same rock saturated with same but wetting fluid. Most sands are water wet, so seismic properties decreases when water is added to a dry rock. What is the reason? The question is, what is the reason when there is a wetting fluid, why seismic properties decreases? The reason is this: when wetting fluid means it will interact with the particles and it will soften the rock, and resultantly seismic properties will be lower in case of wetting fluid. So for wetting liquid, adhesive force is because wetting liquid means it interact with the particles. So adhesive force is will be greater than cohesive forces, and theta will be less than 90. Here theta means contact angle. For example, water, and for non-wetting fluid, the cohesive forces will be higher as compared to adhesive forces, and theta will be in between 90 and 180. Just like an example of non-wetting liquid is, I think we can say mercury, but of course it's not a reservoir fluid type. Oh, sorry. Note, each factor is assessed independently here, assuming others are constant. In reality, many of these factors interact. For more detail, you can see these two papers that have been cited here. This is the end of this video, and thanks for watching. In the next video of this rock physics series, I will talk about elastic moduli, different type of elastic moduli, and Hooke's law of elasticity. If you have any question, just write in the comments. If you want to see more helpful videos in future, please subscribe the channel. That way you will get update and notifications anytime new content comes out. All right, well, that's all I have for you today. If this video helped you, please give it a thumbs up. I hope to see you again with more helpful videos very soon. Take care. Bye bye.